This is the story of Sam the Bellhop and the 654 Club. One evening, Sam was working at the hotel when all of a sudden the doors to the hotel swung wide open and in walked four nicely dressed gentlemen looking like kings. The gentlemen are in the lobby and they're talking amongst each other, and they're saying to each other how they want to have such a good time. So they see Sam in the corner, they call Sam over and they ask Sam, you think you can find us some dates for this evening? Sam stops and looks at his watch and says, well, it's a little early, fellas, but let me see what I can do. So Sam leaves the hotel, goes around the corner, 1, 2, 3 blocks, comes back and says, hey fellas, you're in luck. I found you 4 lovely ladies, 2 brunettes and 2 redheads. They said, Sam, that's pretty good. Where'd you find them? At the 654 Club. They said, Sam, for your efforts, there's a $2 tip. So the couples are having a good time in the evening when all of a sudden one of the gentlemen decides that he wants to play a little bit of poker. But he realizes that they don't have enough poker players. So they call Sam over and they ask Sam, you think you could find us some players for this evening? We'd like to play some poker. Sam stops and looks at his watch and says, well, it's a little late, fellas, but I'll see what I can do. So Sam leaves the hotel, goes around the corner, 1, 2, 3 blocks, comes back and says, hey guys, you're in luck. I found you the poker players. Only problem is, they're all named Jack. They said, Sam, that's not a problem. Where'd you find them? Well, at the 654 Club. They said, Sam, again, for your efforts, there's a $2 tip. So they're playing into the wee hours of the morning when all of a sudden one of the gentlemen realizes that he's running a little low on cash. So he calls Sam over and he says, hey Sam, do you think that maybe you can cash my check? All I have is $40 left. Sam stops and looks at his watch and says, well, it's a little late, but I'll see what I can do. So Sam leaves the hotel, goes around the corner, 1, 2, 3 blocks, comes back and says, hey fella, I've got some bad news and I got some good news. He says, the good news is I was able to cash your check. The bad news is I was able to get you 4 10s. He said, Sam, that's okay. For your efforts, there's a $2 tip. So the evening comes to an end and the couples find themselves down in the lobby again. And they're talking amongst each other saying how they've had such a good time because of Sam. So they call Sam over and they said, hey Sam, can we ask you some questions? Sam says, sure. He goes, you know, we were thinking that maybe you're about 39 years old. Sam says, you guys are close, I'm 38. They ask Sam, do you live close to the hotel? Sam says, well, I live on 13th, 29th, 8th Street. Sam, when you're not working, what do you like to do for fun? Well, I like to gamble, of course, he says. And where's that? Well, down at the 654 Club, right down the street. They ask Sam, have you seen any good games lately? Sam says, well, you know, it's funny you should ask that. The other night, there was this guy named Felix, and he turned over 3 7s and 2 9s. They said, that's a pretty good hand. Did he win? He says, well, no, there was a guy next to him named Tito. And Tito turned over 3 aces and a pair of 8s. Well, he must have won. That's a better full house. Well, he says, unfortunately for those 2 guys, there was a magician sitting right across them named Zacco. And Zacco turned over a straight flush. And that's the story of Sam the Bellhop and the 654 Club.